Hey, hi everyone, welcome back to this session. So, today we'll be gonna be covering up the web development part and what kind of question you can actually wait and how to expect, right, from the interviewer part. So we'll be talking about it, and let's see how this thing's gonna be work out right for him. So first of all, there are uh, large and really vast variety of it. But if I have to talk about the front end part, so there are many other things out there. So in general, so there are questions like differences between the web application and the website, and HTML, HTTPS, and all those things out there. You can expect to interviewer will ask you. So why not give you a brief intro of all those things before we get into it. So what is a website actually talking about? So in term of web development, so I would say that the collection of static pages that provide information like blogs, news, and sites, right? And web application like an interactive website where user can perform actions. And key differences where we can see here that the website is mostly informational, and while a web application is interactive, right? And the other question that is actually HTTP and HTTPS. So how do they work actually? So HTTP means that the hypertext transfer protocol, a protocol that allows communication between the browser and the server, allows communication between the browser and the server, right? And it is not a secure. So that's what HTTP. Now coming to the HTTPS, so uses a SSL and TLS encryption, right, to secure data transmission, preventing hackers from intercepting sensitive data like that. How it works actually, a client like a browser sends an HTTP request to server. Like we've been using a browser called Brave. So whenever we give the prompt in here, and it will give you send a HTTP request to the server. So and the server process the request and send back an HTTP response with the data, like as a web pages, right? And HTTP stand adds encryption to make this process secure. Explain the client server model in web development. Client server model in web development, so it's like client server model is a structure where client, a web browser that sends request, and server, a machine that process the request and sends the response. Server is like machine that process the request and send the response. Client is like web browser that sends the request. For an example, like you open at google.com in a browser, like let's say it's a client, and the browser sends the request to the Google server, and the server processes the request and send back the web page. What is REST API and how does it work? So REST API means that the REST, representational state transfer. So API allows communication between different system using standard web protocols. It follows a stateless architecture. Each request is independent, right? How it works? So a client sends a request, right? The server processes the request and send back JSON and XML data here. What are the cookies, session, and local storage? So cookies is like a storage small data. Session is like a track user login state. Local storage like stores data persistently, like stored in a browser. Uh, and session is like send to the stored to the server, stored in the browser local storage I'm talking about. So for an example, if I'm gonna talk about a website stores a cookies to remember your preferred language. A website stores a cookie to remember your preferred language. A session keeps you logged in while browsing a website. Session keeps you logged in while browsing a website, right? And local storage saves your shopping cart items even after you lose close the browser. Explain DNS and how it works. So DNS is like a phone book for the internet. It converts human readable domain names and into IP addresses. So how it works? So you type google.com in your browser. The browser asks a DNS server to find the matching IP here, and DNS server returns the IP, and the browser connect to the server using the IP and local website. What is the difference between get and post request? So the purpose of get request is retrieves the data, and post means the send to the server. Data visibility, if I'm talking about, so data is visible in the URL and data is sent in the request body. Security is less in get and more secure in for sensitive data, login and search queries. Examples for that: get means that the fetch the user data. Post is like with the creates a new user. What are CORGs? uh, cross origin resource sharing issues, and how can they be fixed? So COGS is a security feature that prevents a website from making requests to different domains here. And issues is if a website tries to fetch data from APIs, the browser blocks the request and then COGS alert. What is AJAX and how does it improve web thing? So AJAX is asynchronous JavaScript and XML allows web pages to update without refreshing. How it works: JavaScript sends a request to the server process and return data. JavaScript update part of the web page dynamically. For an example, you can search on Google, result appear instantly without a full page reload using Ajax. Now the last question here we have it. Explain the differences between front end and back end and full stack development here. If I'm gonna talk about, so uh, role is like, if I'm gonna talk about the front end part, so definition is basically that deals with the user interface and design. And back end, if I'm gonna talk about, so handle server side logic database. And full stack is all about work on both front end and the back end side here. And you can see here the technologies which use in the front end side. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, Angular, like that. And backend for that: Node.js, Python, PHP, and Java. uh, Hypertext preprocessor, right? PHP full from, if I'm not wrong, PHP full form, let's see, hypertext preprocessor. Yeah, I got to know. Now yeah, I can see that the both these are things both used for the back end and front end part. And for an example, creating website layout animation, that comes under HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, Angular. Handling logins, databases, queries, and building an entire web application, right, kind of things. Summary, if I'm gonna sum up here, that website versus web application. So websites are static and web applications are interactive, right? HTTPs is encrypted and secure. Client server thinks that the client sends request and the server responds. REST API is like allows communication between front end and back end. Cookies versus session versus local storage. So different ways to store it, right? So cookies means, I told you that the uh, website keeps remember that the preferred languages that once you again visit the website. And session is that keeps the login part for you. And the local storage is that the images, you can say it, and the other files you can go for it. Get post means getting retrieve the data. Post means sends the data. Cogs issue means that the prevent unauthorized cross domain requests. Ajax is update web pages without reloading, right? Ajax, yeah, I got to know. And backend, full front end, and full stack, we all know very well. So guys, here was the basic questions of the web development you can expect from the interviewer side. They can ask you, right? These were the really basic questions, right? And we'll be coming up with the more interesting things in web development part. So for now, that's all of my time for the today. See you in the next, catch you in the next, and bye. Peace.